Right. So I think we were just in the middle of the direct examination of Sergeant Valencia. If you want to, let's re-swear you in since it's a new day, and we'll go from there.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Sergeant Valencia, I am handing you what's been marked as States Exhibit 13 through 37 and States Exhibits 44, 45, and 46. Take a moment with 13 on top, 46 being on top. Please take a moment. And I would ask the record to reflect that I did not hand Sergeant Valencia Exhibit 34. Can you tell us generally, or do you recognize those photos?
Yes, I do.
Can you tell us generally what they are?
Generally, this is the area of the scene at the residence.
Is that the subject matter you testified regarding yesterday?
Yes.
Are you accurate copies of those photos to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, they are.
Your Honor, I ask that those exhibits be received.
As talked about earlier, these will all be received. And are you excluding 34 for right now?
Yes.
Okay.
This is what's been marked by States Exhibit 13. And Sergeant Valencia, I am handing you a laser pointer instead of making you stand up like we did yesterday.
Okay.
As you testify, you can be comfortable and willing to point out things that are interesting and explain it and so that we can create a record for the jury.
Yes.
Looking at Exhibit 13, are you able, can you point out, or is the body of Mr. Phillips in this photo?
Yes, it is. Mr. Phillips' body is right in this area here, covered up by the white sheet.
Has he been moved at this point?
No, he was not.
So is that his original location?
Yes.
You said something about a white sheet. Can you remind us, I mean, was that how you found him, or how did that get there?
No, that was placed on there I'm not quite sure who placed it on there, but it had been placed on there to cover him from view from traffic from County Highway M and to protect him.
Yesterday, you described the positioning of the body. Can you describe how the sheet is laying now?
The sheet is just laid across portions of his body. You can still see some of the portions sticking out. His body is slightly sticking out from the snowbank in this area.
Asked to show Exhibit 14. That snow mound, I guess, can you tell us what this is?
This photograph shows the feet of Mark Phillips, the snowbank that's behind him, and also partially to his back. This is the residence. Here is the man cave, and then here's the garage area. This portion is a driveway that circles back around to County Road W, or the other portion of the driveway.
The mound of snow on the right-hand side, are you able to estimate how deep you think that is?
With the snowfall that year, I believe that was easily over 4 feet.
Does it taper off towards the driveway?
Yes, it does.
About how deep is it right before it hits the rest of the driveway?
Very minimal snow accumulation there. It snowed overnight. I'm not exactly sure how much that is, but it's minimal snow there.
Asked to show Exhibit 15, and Your Honor, this does show part of the body, but not the face or anything. Is that Mr. Phillips?
Yes, it is.
Is this at about the time, has he been moved at this point?
Yes, he has been.
Can you point out any indication, or is there any indication of where he was prior?
He had been in this area over here to the left of the photograph. That's the indentation or imprint made by his body as the snow had melted, and he lay there.
And did you remove the white sheet at this point?
Yes, it had been removed.
Do you notice anything, or can you point out anything about his clothing?
His clothing has several rips in it in this area of his pants. They're in different directions. This is along the belt line, and this is in the along his legs, or parallel with his legs, so to speak. And there were noticeable gaps or rips in that denim material.
Did those rips occur while you were moving?
No, they did not.
Was any part of him frozen to the ground in a way that, I guess, you had to, for lack of a better term, pry him off of where you moved him from?
Yes, he had, his body temperature had melted the snow there, so it had sunk into the snow a little bit. You can see the areas of his legs where those areas were stuck to the snow or frozen to the snow, as well as his hands. But his core had very little sticking. It was more around the edges.
Are you confident, though, that you did not, or someone who moved him, or see those tears occur from pulling him from his previous location?
Those tears did not occur from moving him.
Asked to show Exhibit 16. Is this the same photo from a different angle?
Yes, it is.
Asked to show Exhibit 17. Can you point out in this location, or can you show in this location, can you see in this, where he was previously, or do you know that?
Yes, this area in the lower left portion of the photograph is where his final resting position had been, and you can see how the snow had been pushed and or melted for him to drop into that position.
Where those 2 feet are, is that the edge of the shoveled snow there?
Yes, it is.
Does that comparison give you any idea of the depth?
Of the depth?
Of the snow in the driveway versus the shoveled snow?
Here, I think this gives an indication of at least the ground level where the snow has been melted. I would estimate that's probably 4 to 6 inches there.
Okay. And did your pointer, did it go back to the spot where you had previously moved Mr. Phillips? I guess, where did you point? Can you describe it? Because I actually asked you something.
Okay, this area here is the imprint that was made by his body as the snow melted. You can see the ground and then the snow edge above it.
Asked to show Exhibit 18. Have we already talked about this? The structure?
Yes, this is the garage over in the center of the screen. This is the man cave building over on the right side, and then there is a trailer parked in the driveway as well.
And did you or the crew you were with bring that trailer, or was it there before?
That was there beforehand.
Asked to show Exhibit 19. I don't have any questions about this. Is there anything you'd like to add about this picture?
I guess I'm going to object as to that question.
What, is there a specific reason why it's shown?
Your Honor, I'm making a record so that we can go through it line by line. I'm saying I don't have a question at all, vague or otherwise. Can you identify this photo?
In this photograph, this is of the garage. Here are the two main garage doors for vehicle entry. This is a side door for personal entry.
Asked to show Exhibit 20. Can you tell us what we're seeing here?
This is a view from farther down into the driveway. This is the residence on the right side. I mentioned yesterday the birdhouse and the tree that were inside of the snowbank area between that driveway and the house. Here's the garage that we saw in the previous photograph. The man cave is farther behind the residence. Here's a snowbank running alongside the driveway, and at the very end you can see the sheet and it's a portion of it extending into the driveway.
Is this the W driveway?
Yes, it is.
And did you indicate that you can see the sheet that was covering Mr. Phillips?
Yes, you can see the sheet right along the edge of the driveway as it extends out past the end. The coloration of the snow is a little dirtier, and the white sheet is much more white than the surrounding snow.
At this point, are you able to say whether that sheet is still covering him?
It is still covering him, yes.
And is this this is before or after the body was moved?
This is before the body was moved.
Asked to show Exhibit 21. What is this a picture of?
This is a picture of the east side of the residence, or the other driveway, the M driveway. The M driveway runs, again, in a southerly direction, but more at an angle. There's a tree line to the east of the residence that you can see on the other side of the vehicles. In the background is a squad car, and then I believe there's a portion of County Trunk Highway M that's in the very, just past the squad car. In addition, there's a camera located on the corner of the house here.
Does that tree line go all the way down to the road?
Yes, it does.
Asked to show Exhibit 22. Is that the same camera you just described, or a different camera?
No, this is the same camera that I just described being on the corner of the house. In the background, you can see County Trunk Highway W running from right to left, and then running more from the right corner upwards is County Trunk Highway M, which runs north and south.
Asked to show Exhibit 23. What is this?
This is a photograph of the west side of the house between the W driveway and the residence. This is County Trunk Highway W running from right to left. This is a Paul's towing vehicle right here. Here is the tree that we had talked about earlier, as well as the birdhouse. Right here on the residence is a small camera, right where my laser pointer is at.
Is the tow truck, do you know what the reason the tow truck is there for?
The tow truck was there to remove the truck that was possibly involved.
Asked to show Exhibit 24. What are we looking at here?
This is another view of the western side of the residence. Again, running generally from right to left is County Trunk Highway W. In the background is County Trunk Highway M. There's a residence kind of in the middle background of the photograph. Again, here's the birdhouse, the tree, and then the camera on the western side of the residence.
Is that the W driveway?
Yes, it is.
Asked to show Exhibit 25. What are we looking at here?
This is a portion of the driveway. In the background would be the structure that was identified as the man cave. On the northern side of the property and the house. These are tire tracks from the vehicle that had been removed, in addition to a tire track in the middle. And this area with no snow would be the area where the vehicle had been parked.
So that is where the truck was parked?
Yes.
Do you recall what direction it was facing?
It was facing in an easterly direction, which was pointing at, if you were to travel from here, you would travel down the M driveway down to near the intersection of County Trunk Highway M and W.
Asked to show Exhibit 26. Can you identify this photo?
Yes, this photo shows, if you look in the lefternmost portion of the photograph, this is County Truck Highway W, running east and west. The residence is the white building in the photograph, the larger building. In the background, you can see the man cave. You can also see the vehicle in its parked position before it was removed. Just over the top of that, you can see the garage, or the east side of the garage. Where the car is parked here is the M driveway, which runs down to County Trunk Highway M and W.
Are you able to say the location of, I guess, the nearest neighbor or residence to the Phillips home?
I'm not exactly sure of the exact distances. What I had saw yesterday, this area over here where the pine trees are, where my laser pointer is, that's approximately 175 to 200 yards from the house, and there's a house behind that. There was also the other house across County Trunk Highway W in the background that we saw in the previous photographs that was back in the distance. I'm not sure of the distance from that, but it could be several hundred yards.
Asked to show Exhibit 27. What is this?
This is an overview of the general area. This right here would be the Phillips residence, which would be in the upper right-hand corner of the photograph. What's labeled as Jostad Cooley Road. If you look on Google Maps or anything like that, it would come up as Jostad Cooley Road, but that is also County Trunk Highway M. Running from across here, I know it's labeled, you can see a W here, but it says M here. This is County Trunk Highway M that runs across the full length of the photograph. Correction, it's County Highway W that runs the full width of County Trunk, of the photograph from right to left. That is County Trunk Highway W. This is Dokabakan Road here, which is in the area of the pine trees from the previous photograph. And then you have several roads that run off it and a small subdivision here.
Traveling, if we were to, from left of the screen to right of the screen, is this the route we saw you take yesterday when you arrived on scene?
Yes, it is. I would have entered from the left side of the photograph, traveling east along County Trunk Highway W. Along this route, I slowed right about Dokabakan Road. As you could evidence from my video, I slowed there where you can see the photographs of Lori and Mark in the snowbank as I slowed and approached, and then turned into the driveway on the western side. You don't see it very well here, but this would be the W driveway here, which then loops back around near the intersection of County Trunk Highway M and W. That would be the M driveway.
Is this area familiar to you?
Yes.
How and why?
I've worked as a patrolman and patrol sergeant for many years. I've traveled this County Trunk Highway W and County Trunk Highway M many, many times. I can't recall how many times I've driven it during the day and during the night.
Are you still familiar with this area today, 2023?
Yes.
Is this map that we're looking at here, are you aware or familiar of any changes, new subdivisions, new roads, that kind of thing, or is this still an accurate description of the area?
This is still an accurate description of the area.
Traveling away from the house back towards where you would come in, is there an S-type curve of some kind?
Yes, there is.
About how far down the road is that?
That S-type curve would be west of the residence, and it would be off of the left side of the photograph, but that's approximately 2 miles.
Are there subdivisions or roads before the S-curve if you were traveling from the direction of the house towards that S-curve?
Yes, there's McCurdy Road here. There's what I would identify as more of a subdivision because it's more built up with houses right here, which is Pryor Road and Roberts Road. Those are identifiable subdivisions on the left side.
Are you able to tell us how, about in terms of miles, how far each of those roads are respectively from the Phillips house?
McCurdy Road, I would estimate, is being approximately a half mile, and Pryor Road is 3/4 of a mile from the residence.
Would you be aware if you could see the Phillips residence from any of those roads?
You could not see the Phillips residence from Pryor Road. From McCurdy Road, you could see it if you were in the area where my laser pointer is right now. You could see across here during the winter if there's no crops. You would easily be able to see the residence from this little spot right here, but that would be about it.
Asked to show Exhibit 28. Can you identify this?
This appears to be a photograph of the scene again. In the background, you see County Road W running from right to left on the screen. You see squad cars as well as investigator vehicles in the driveway. There's also personnel around Mark Phillips' body. You also have the snowbank and how it's plowed in this area of the W driveway.
I guess it looks like something in a neon green or yellow jacket. Are you able to tell us who that is or what that is?
I believe that would be the medical examiner.
Asked to show Exhibit 29. Are you able to identify this?
This photograph shows the door to the man cave, which is in the upper left part of the screen. It shows that there are no tracks on the snow, the freshly fallen snow. There's the corner of the red Dodge pickup, which is in the rightmost portion of the photograph. And this item kind of in the center of the snow portion that no one has stepped on would later be described as a can koozie that was flattened out and under the snowfall.
Okay. Asked to show Exhibit 30. What can you tell us about this photo?
This photograph is another photograph of the vehicle parked in the driveway. Note it's facing toward the M driveway and east, with the passenger side door next to the residence, the entry door to the residence, and then the driver's side doors are on the side of the man cave. In addition, there would be the can koozie, which was located in this area where my pointer is at right now, in the lower center portion of the screen. And then now there are footprints in the snow from personnel looking at evidence and moving around the vehicle.
Is this before the truck was moved?
Yes, it is.
Asked to show Exhibit 31. Can you identify this photo?
Yes, this is another photograph of the truck with the license plate, again, still in the same position. I note that there are tire tracks underneath the vehicle, which were made when it pulled in. and there's less snow underneath the vehicle than surrounding it. There's also a trash can between the garage, correction, a trash can in between the truck and the residence.
Can you describe the, I guess, where the location of, since you brought it up, between, where's the trash can in relation to the residence door?
The door to the residence would be out of view, but to the right of that trash can.
Were the trash cans or any other items like that on the property moved during the course of what you did on scene?
No,
Did you observe anyone move any particular item like that?
I did not.
Asked to show exhibit 32. Can you tell us what we're looking at here?
This is a photograph again of the passenger side of the vehicle. From the previous photograph, we could see the trash can. You can see plowed portions or shoveled portions of the driveway. This would be the direction the vehicle moved into its position prior to it being parked. The door to the residence would be just past the trash can on the left side. And then you also see in the background the trailer and the entrance door to the garage.
And that is exhibit 32. Asked to show exhibit 33. What are we looking at here?
This is a photograph of the front passenger side corner of the truck. There's tracks around it. You can also see a snowbank, the garbage can noted before, and then the entrance door to the residence.
Asked to show exhibit 34. What are we looking at here? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, 35, and let the record reflect that is, we are skipping 34, and I had identified that earlier. This is exhibit 35. Can you tell us what we're looking at here?
What we're looking at here is the, again, the truck parked in the driveway. You can see the tire tracks underneath it where it pulled in. You can also see that on the driver's side of the vehicle is that can koozie in the lower center portion of the photograph.
Asked to show exhibit 3.
What we're looking at here is, again, the driver's side of the truck. The driver's door is open, and then we're also looking at the running boards on the truck itself.
Asked to show exhibit 44. What can you tell us about this photo?
This photograph is similar to one that we've already seen. It shows the M driveway to the residence, which is on the east side. It shows the vegetation and trees right along the edge of that driveway on the east side of it. We see vehicles parked in the driveway, the red truck in the background. We see the roof of the man cave. We see a portion of the garage, and then we see the residence clearly in the center. There's also a for sale sign, I believe, out in the front.
Clarify that. Is this 37 actually? Okay.
Okay, this is exhibit 37. Okay. Now, can I ask exhibit 4? We'll go back to exhibit 44. Sergeant Valencia, you had indicated that you're familiar with the area around.
Yes.
And that includes the intersection of. That includes the intersection of.
Yes.
And I guess can you just tell us again, you're familiar with that due to?
I'm familiar with this due to patrolling this area for many, many years. I also lived in the area for a while.
Describing that intersection, are there any safety concerns that would exist pulling out of the M driveway onto the road you just described?
Yes, there would be concerns that I would have if you're traveling west, just prior to the intersection of County Trunk Highway M and W. There's a small corner, and there's also a dip in the roadway. So in front of the residence is fairly straight and flat, but just to the east of it, there's a small corner, and it's lower in the roadway. So as you're approaching the residence from traveling west, you go through a small corner, and then you also go through this dip, and then you rise up to the flat, which meets right near the intersection of County Trunk Highway M and W.
And are those concerns equally present for the W driveway, or are they different?
They would be very different. The vegetation at the M driveway comes right down near to the roadway, which would block your view of vehicle travel coming west on County Trunk Highway M. If you were exiting the driveway on County Trunk, or the W driveway on County Trunk Highway W, you would have much more of a reaction gap to react to any vehicles that would go through that dip and small corner. So you have a much better view from the W driveway than the M driveway.
Given what you know about the two driveways and everything you testified to, how would you recommend coming in and leaving the residence based on what you know?
System.
What can you tell us about this photo? Oh, I'm sorry, this is Exhibit 44. What's been marked as Exhibit 44. Can you identify this photo?
Yes, I can. This is a photograph of Mark laying in his final resting position with the house in the background, the snowbank in between him and the house. There's a camera that's on the corner of the house in the background. In addition, you see his body laying. His feet are on the northern end. His head is on the southern end. You see a hand out here, and then you see the edge of the snowbank, which had been plowed alongside the driveway.
Can I show you? Can I ask to see Exhibit 45? What are we looking at here?
This would be the, in the background you can see the garage. You see a portion of Mark's hand extended past the snowbank here. And in the lower center portion of the photograph is the sunglasses that had drawn my attention, which my headlights had reflected off of when I approached and turned into the driveway.
Ask to see Exhibit 46. And what can you tell us about this photo?
This photograph also shows again Mark in his final position in the snowbank. What you see again here, his feet on the north side, his head is on the south side. You see his hand extending from that snowbank. Additionally, this hand is extended farther out past that snowbank. We also see that in the background, the more or less the edge of the snowbank, it for lack of a better term, it somewhat curves toward the roadway, and then there comes to kind of an abrupt corner here where his head and shoulders are.
I'm going to move on, I'm going to request that we, now that it's been discussed, due to the sensitive nature of the photo, can we take that down? Yesterday, when we saw the camera, did you yourself interview Ms. Phillips?
I spoke with her briefly, yes.
And did we see that? Is that part of the video that was seen yesterday?
Yes, it is.
Would you describe that? I guess, what was your goal in talking to her at that point?
My goal at that point was to arrive, try to get some background information, and just talk with her about what had taken place.
Was that an interrogation that we saw?
No.
Relevant speculation.
Sustained. Right. That testimony, we're just dropping the question.
I guess, are you familiar with, I guess, or do you do, is there some type of a checklist or something you do while you go through the scene?
We do complete a death scene checklist. It's a form that we have that gives us reminders of things that we should look at or do to make sure things like photographs being taken, who might have been on scene, things like that.
What is the purpose of that form?
The purpose is to really, it's just a checklist that we go through to make sure that we're covering certain areas at scenes like this.
Does the form ask you to identify a suspect?
Yes.
Does that term mean, the term suspect, does that mean anything to you? Why or why not?
Knowledge, objection, relevance. This is going for a legal conclusion, and it's going to the jury to the witness to testify to an issue within the realm of jury.
Objection sustained. Go ahead.
Will be struck, Your Honor.
The question will be struck.
I have no further questions.
Crosse?
Thank you. Thank you.
Good morning.
All right, so I just want to cover your initial response here. At the time, this was something that you believed to require an emergent response. Is that correct?
Yes, based on the nature of the call.
Anytime you have a medical call like that where somebody might be dead or dying, you're going to respond emergency.
Typically, yes.
All right. And at the time, you were driving a marked squad car?
Yes.
And that squad car was equipped with a squad car video system?
Yes.
At the time, did the Crosse County Sheriff's Department have body cameras in use?
No.
All right. Where is that squad car camera positioned within your squad car?
Typically, it's positioned right around in the area of the rear view mirror. That'd be the best place to describe it being located.
So approximately in the center of the windshield, towards the top where the rear view mirror would be?
Yes.
All right. And you received some information from your dispatcher prior to responding to this call, is that correct?
Yes.
That's fairly common in your line of work to get updates and information from your dispatcher.
Yes.
Your dispatchers are employees that you work with frequently in the course of your work.
Daily.
And the information that you received from dispatch was that the caller was, quote, hysterical. Is that correct?
I don't recall those words, but it's possible.
Is that something that you would have noted in your police report had you let me ask by this. Do you not recall that, Sergeant, or are you saying that that wasn't the description?
I do not remember that.
And if I showed you, did you author a police report in the course of this investigation?
Yes.
And if I showed you a copy of that police report, would that help refresh your recollection?
Yes.
We're gonna do 500. 500.
Sergeant Valencia, any has been marked exhibit 500, would you turn to page? Let me ask you, does that appear to be a copy of the report of the father?
Yes, it does.
Would you turn to page 2 for me, and then let me know when you've reviewed the relevant section?
Okay, yes.
Does that refresh your recollection?
Yes.
And were you informed by dispatch that the caller, Ms. Phillips, was hysterical?
Yeah. Yes.
With the 500 for me? And that was your impression when you made contact with Ms. Phillips initially as well, is that correct?
She was very emotional, yes.
You described her in your report as, quote, extremely upset and emotional, end quote. Is that fair?
Sounds fair.
And that's certainly your candid observation of Ms. Phillips at the time, is that correct?
Yes.
In other words, if you believed that she was faking an emotion, you would have noted that in your police report, right?
I guess I don't understand that question.
If you believe that somebody was putting on a show and pretending to be angry or sad or hysterical, that's the type of thing that you would note if it appeared to be disingenuous to you, correct?
Possibly, yes.
And you didn't note any such factor in your report, is that correct?
I did not.
All right. Now, in this state, Ms. Phillips gave you a little bit of information, correct?
Yes.
You previously testified that let me just ask you, initially you were trying to calm her down, is that fair to say?
Yes.
That's what we saw when you took her by the arms and looked her in the eye and said, it's going to be okay?
Yes.
And you asked her what happened, right?
Yes.
And Ms. Phillips told you that the two of them had an argument of sorts the other night, right?
She had confirmed what she had told dispatch, yes.
That Mark had gotten aggressive,
Yes.
that she took off to escape from Mark.
I don't believe she used the word escape. I think she said get out of here.
To get away from him because he was coming at her,
He was coming around the truck, yes.
and indicated that she left so quickly that the passenger side door on the front was still open. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And then she told you repeatedly that she didn't even know that Mark was outside. Is that correct?
Correct.
She appeared to be quite distraught about the fact that her husband was outside dead. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Now, she also told you that when she came home the prior evening or early morning that she didn't even see her husband out there. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. So at some point you moved Ms. Phillips to the front of your squad car. Sergeant, is that so that you can preserve the area around Mr. Phillips?
Yes, I had first responders arriving. There was evidence, what I felt might be evidence out in the driveway. I wanted to move her away from that location briefly to just move her away from it for a little bit.
And at some point shortly thereafter, Deputy Brandon Stotinger arrives. Is that correct?
Correct.
And at some point you speak with Deputy Stotinger about taking Ms. Phillips away from the scene into the home. Is that fair?
I don't know that I spoke with him about taking her away. I don't recall that.
Okay.
Don't remember that.
And if Deputy Stotinger were to testify that you mentioned something to the effect of, can you take her away from the scene, any reason to doubt his testimony?
No.
All right. Now, at some point were you aware that Ms. Phillips was able to contact friends and family to come to the scene?
Yes, I could see that she had been on her phone.
And you saw that various loved ones of Ms. Phillips arrived at various points during this encounter. Is that correct?
I became aware of it later, yes.
Now, Sergeant, is it fair to assume that if you felt there was a realistic opportunity to resuscitate a person in Mr. Phillips' position, that you would have begun life-saving measures?
Yes.
It was your impression upon arriving at the scene that Mr. Phillips was visibly deceased?
Yes.
And as a result, it wasn't the type of scenario where you would try to use an automatic external defibrillator or perform CPR, right?
Overall,
I would say that when I pulled into the driveway, I could hear these sirens on the first responder vehicles arriving. They arrived a short time later. They have all of that equipment and could provide much better care from the position I was in. It did not, at that time, seem to be anything that would be needed.
Okay. Could I get and I'd like to mark this 501.
Is this exhibit 2? Okay.
Sergeant, I'm showing you what's been marked as exhibit 501. Does this appear to be a copy of state's exhibit 2?
Yes.
And offer exhibit 501, Your Honor.
Any objection? You received? Yeah, go ahead, it's been published before.
And what I'd like to do is just go through and write down the location, the approximate location of some of these pertinent pieces of evidence that you testified to earlier. Is that okay with you?
Yes.
All right. So I've got a laser pointer here, and I want you to tell me if I'm correct or incorrect, but I'm pointing to the area, the concrete patch between what's been described as the back of the home and the man cave. Is that accurate?
Yes, I would say the main part of the driveway is gray in color. That tan portion would be that concrete pad between the man cave and the house.
Okay. And your testimony won't kill my laser pointer, but right on this photograph, exhibit 501, Sergeant, sketch out approximately the location of one of the
The approximate location? Do you want me to use a box, or do you want me to write the word truck?
Truck is fine. In my understanding, the truck is located in 2000.
Correct. If that will suffice.
Now, you mark the approximate position of Mr. Phillips' body. Maybe just leave it at Mr. Phillips' body. And from that point, you said that the sunglasses were approximately south of the driveway.
Correct.
Mark approximately the driveway. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the truck would have been parked in that section between the man cave and the back entrance to the home. Is that correct?
That's correct.
The home actually had two entrances. Is that right, Sergeant?
I do not know that. I believe so, but I do not know.
You didn't know whether there was an entrance in the front of the house as well?
I don't believe that entrance was being used. I did not see any tracks or anything like that. It wasn't plowed out or shoveled out.
And you position Mr. Phillips's body approximately right at the crest of where the driveway begins to curve in an eastbound fashion. Is that correct?
It's in that area, yes.
And the sunglasses were approximately in the middle of the driveway, about 15 feet to the south of the position of the body, correct?
Correct.
Now, oftentimes you have access to resources like the Wisconsin State Patrol's Technical Crash Reconstruction Unit, correct?
Yes.
And that's a resource that you've relied upon many times. Is that true?
I would say that I'm not anyone who has contacted the Wisconsin State Patrol to do anything like that.
You certainly participated in investigations where the State Patrol has conducted accident or crash reconstruction. Is that fair?
Yes.
And you're aware that the State Patrol has technical measuring equipment, like a total station, to come out and measure exactly the location and distance of evidence. Is that correct?
Yes.
They did not do that in this case. Is that fair?
I do not believe that happened.
So the distances that we're relying upon here are approximate. Is that fair to say, Sergeant?
Yes.
Now, the can koozie would have been located approximately on the driver's side of the truck as depicted in the state's earlier exhibits at the point that you viewed it on February 23rd, correct?
Correct.
All right. The scene here depicted in Exhibit 501 certainly looked different on February 23rd of 2019, right, Sergeant?
Very different.
There was a lot of snow, right?
Yes.
And that snow had been plowed up into snowbanks on both sides running parallel to the driveway. Is that correct?
There was more of a snowbank on the, as I recall, on the house side of the driveway versus the western side of that driveway.
But there's a smaller snowbank on the western side of the driveway as well.
Yes.
And that snowbank, you testified, reached upwards to, you estimated, about 4 feet. Is that accurate?
The one on the house side, yes.
All right. And it was your impression that that snowbank hadn't come from any snowfall on February 22nd, right? In other words, the snowfall was fairly light on February 22nd.
I do not remember that.
All right. So I want to ask you just right off the bat about when you turned into that driveway. Sergeant, do you agree that when you turned into the driveway on the westbound driveway and began driving upwards, Mr. Phillips was not immediately visible?
He was not. I could see Lori's dark shape. You could see in the squad video, as I was approaching, there were two dark figures. So if Mr. Phillips had blended into her figure, I would not have seen that. It could have been clearly visible, but I couldn't see it because of her dark shape as well.
Well, do you recall testifying on that very topic during a motion hearing earlier in this case?
I believe so, yes.
And as is today, all that testimony was under oath, correct?
Yes.
And everything that you testified to during that motion hearing is the truth, right, Sergeant?
Yes.
And you testified during an earlier motion hearing that Mr. Phillips was not immediately visible when you turned into the driveway. Is that correct?
Doesn't recall that at all. Overruled, if you couldn't answer the question. You recall testifying to that. That's a question. Did you recall testifying to that? Was the last question. So please move along.
Yes, I do recall testifying to that.
Okay. He does recall testifying. Go ahead.
Thank you, investigator. And I want to go through some of the photographs here. In particular, views from the driveway itself. You agree at the very least that Mr. Phillips was mostly obscured behind this snowbank, somebody driving up that stretch of the westbound driveway.
Yes.
And I'm going to show you which I believe the state has previously.
Yes, I do.
What are those photographs depict?
These photographs depict the driveway, the edge of the snowbank, as well as Mr. Phillips' body in the photograph. And these two are, I would say, the colors differing in them in what they present.
All right, thank you. Authors of this file,
You received? Are they, can I just, for cross-reference, are they, you said they were former exhibits? Doesn't matter, go ahead.
Did you take this photograph or did somebody else?
I do not recall or remember whether I took this photograph or not.
All right, and I'm assuming that the purpose of this photograph was to show the degree of occlusion of the snowbank with respect to where Mr. Phillips' body was in the driveway. Is that correct?
I would assume.
And we can see just barely the outline of possibly Mr. Phillips' left arm at the edge of that photograph. Is that fair?
With the white sheet over the top of it, yes.
All right. And let me ask you, Sergeant, at any point did any investigator take a photograph of Mr. Phillips from this angle without the white sheet over him?
I do not believe so. I don't know that, though.
Okay. That would have been a pretty important piece of evidence to show what was actually visible to a motorist coming up that driveway. Is that fair to say?
Could have been.
I'm going to show you a closer photograph. This is Exhibit 503. Is that a closer up view of 502, Sergeant?
Yes, it appears to be closer.
And that view appears to also depict the very edge of Mr. Phillips's, I guess it would be his left hand. Is that fair?
I don't know that, I would believe that that would be accurate. Right in this area here, this photograph is, at least up on this screen, I don't think is as clear as maybe the actual photograph is, but yes, I would say that that would be accurate.
All right. And you agree with me again, Sergeant, that from this angle, both with or without the sheet, Mr. Phillips is mostly occluded behind that snowbank.
From this angle.
And this would be the angle that a motorist entering from the westbound driveway would typically drive, right? Right?
Straight in, but they wouldn't view it from that angle. If you were looking at the squad car and they were driving in that driveway, the driver's side would be on the other side of, so if, for an example, if this squad car were pointing into the driveway versus facing out, a driver is on the west side of that driveway looking at it from a different angle.
And typically when somebody drives into a driveway, they're looking in the direction of travel, right?
Typically.
And the direction of travel in this case would be straight forward until the driveway begins to curve right around where the exterior garage is, correct?
Yes.
All right. Can I get State's Exhibit 6, please? And the media, I am publishing a photograph of Mr. Phillips' body. All right. You recall viewing the body in this position?
Yes.
And we do have some glare on this, but does this appear to be Mr. Phillips angled within that snowbank?
Angled within the snowbank. I think you see, can I use pointer?
Well, let me ask you this. Mr.
No.
Phillips appears to be partially within the snowbank, correct?
His upper body, yes.
And the snowbank is running approximately parallel at that point where we see this hand protrusion, correct?
Correct. It's
And-
difficult to see on this.
Yeah, I know
photograph.
that the glossy photo on the Alamo is a little bit more difficult. but I'm gonna hand you this, Sergeant. You agree that the depth of the snow is higher than Mr. Phillips' torso within the snowbank?
Yes.
All right. Was this photograph taken, Sergeant, by you or by an officer?
I do not recall. I do not remember. It was probably by me, but I do not specifically remember.
And it looked like you had been moving around the body at that point, correct?
Yes.
You certainly would have noted the presence of any footprints within the snowbank behind Mr. Phillips if they had existed. Is that correct?
Yes.
And can we assume from the fact that you didn't note any footprints in that snowbank behind Mr. Phillips before examining the scene that they likely did not exist?
Yes.
Thank you. Can I get State's Exhibits 45 and 46, please? All right, and again, notice I'm going to be published. Again, here, Sergeant, you agree, we can see the depth of the snow with respect to Mr. Phillips's torso and the remainder of his body.
Yes.
And we can see that the snowbank is running approximately parallel to where Mr. Phillips's left hand is sticking out. Correct?
Both his left and right hand, yes.
What Exhibit 45? Photograph of the Phillips's body.
Yes.
I'm zooming in on the portion where Mr. Phillips's covered body is. Do you agree that this photograph was taken from an angle? In other words, was taken from a position of somebody standing, I guess, to the west and to the south, angled towards Mr. Phillips, in order to capture that view?
I think if you show the sunglasses for relevance, it would be from the area where the sunglasses were located in the direction of Mr. Phillips.
But
I don't know that it was for a particular angle. I think it was an angle from the sunglasses to Mr. Phillips.
yeah, but taken with that purpose of showing both the sunglasses and Mr. Phillips, right?
Yes.
In other words, it wasn't taken from a straight ahead angle, looking forward like a motorist might when they're going up that driveway, correct?
I think at the angle of the sunglasses, it would be reasonable for a person to start looking to the right around the driveway.
Well, I'm asking you, Sergeant, you agree that most people going up that driveway are going to be heading due north until you hit the curve, right?
Heading due north, yes.
All right. showing what's been marked as Exhibit 506.
I do not.
That appear to be part of the scene.
Yes, it does.
Does Mr. Phillips's body appear to have been rolled at that point?
It is not in the photograph.
Well, let's look at Exhibit 5. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
That would be-
Yes, he had been moved from his frontal rest position. This similar photograph, he had been moved.
Receipt.
Looking at Exhibit 504, this is after you and other responders rolled him to, I guess it would be on his right side, correct?
Correct.
And we can see the outline in the snowbank where Mr. Phillips was presumably resting prior to being rolled. Is that correct?
That is correct.
It looks like the body heat from Mr. Phillips melted the ground or melted the snow beneath him to a certain degree. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And presumably Mr. Phillips would have been in that position for some degree of time in order to melt that snow. Fair assumption?
Yes.
Now, Sergeant, I'm going to show you a closer up. Is that a closer view of some of the snow melt beneath Mr. Phillips?
Yes.
And it looks like from this view, he actually melted the snow down to ground level where we can see some grass or some leaves beneath.
Yes. There's some vegetation that's poking through.
Exhibit 506. Closer up photograph this area where Mr. Phillips is position. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe from a different angle.
And we see a patch of red there next to where some of the snow melt is. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is that approximately where Mr. Phillips' face was?
Could be. I can't tell from this angle without his body there. I'm not sure. It could be.
You agree that Mr. Phillips was bleeding somewhat from his nose or his face when you observed him on scene. Is that correct?
Yes, I did.
And does that red mark appear to be consistent with the possibility of blood?
Yes.
Sergeant, you agree that you have no idea how Mr. Phillips ended up in that position in the snowbank. Is that correct?
I did not.
And you have no idea whether or not Mr. Snow Phillips had ended up, well, strike that. Let's go to your squad car video here. Sergeant, does it look like we're looking at a view of your squad car video that you testified to yesterday?
Yes.
All right. And this is a view that you're viewing at approximately 6:40 a.m., right?
Correct.
It looks like it's starting to get light out, right?
It's still fairly dark. The lighting from the video camera is not necessarily as active as your eyes would see it.
But lighter than it would have been around 2 a.m., right?
Yes.
I don't see any visible street lamps or lighting around Phillips' home. Is that accurate?
Yes.
So presumably when you're driving by this area at night, unless you happen to illuminate it with your headlights or some other device, it's going to be pretty dark.
Yes. There's a street light that you can see in the background at the intersection marking it. That and the stop sign from County Trunk Highway M and W. But yes, other than that, there's no other.
Yeah. And the street light that you
Lighting.
referenced would be southbound from the eastmost end of the driveway, correct?
I'm sorry, say that again.
The street light that you referenced would be across the intersection and south of the eastmost driveway, right?
Yes, that's correct.
The view that we're getting here is the westbound driveway, correct?
Correct.
And you don't know, Sergeant, which way Ms. Phillips would have traveled back to the home from the area around Woodman's and the Baymont Inn, is that correct?
I do not know.
In other words, you could reach that area this way, coming eastbound the way that you are by way of Onalaska, right?
By way of Holmen, yes.
But yeah, excuse me. And you could reach it westbound by way of West Salem, correct?
Yes, if you traveled north on M to the intersection where the light is and took a left, you would approach from the east.
That's actually quicker, right?
Quicker.
The quicker route of travel approaching up M through the east, right?
It could be, yes.
All right. Now, a person coming from the east, even if they had the area illuminated and were looking in that particular spot, wouldn't be in a position to see Mr. Phillips laying in that snowbank. Is that correct?
I don't know that.
So, and obviously, in order to see Mr. Phillips from a position coming from the east, excuse me, yes, like you were, you have to actually be looking at it, right?
Looking, I'm not sure the question.
In order to see Mr. Phillips, you have to actually be looking at him, right?
I'm not sure that I could answer that from someone else's perspective.
Well, you knew what to look for because dispatch told you that there was a hysterical wife kneeling next to her husband on the driveway, right?
And I could see them as you see the video here.
Yeah. The person in Ms. Phillips' position wouldn't necessarily be aware that there was a... You have no idea whether or not Ms. Phillips was able to see Mr. Phillips in that position when she returned home, correct?
I do not know.
Now, I'm going to have Ms. Witzke just play this through for a quick round until you're from this point, which is stopped at 6 hours, 40 minutes, and 20 seconds, until the point that your vehicle stops. Let's have everyone take a look.
I'm just going to say that I don't think this was ever said. This is Exhibit 3, State's Exhibit 3.
Yes, thank you.
130 location.
Okay. And now we're going to go frame by frame hang on a minute, from 6 hours, 40 minutes, and 28 seconds. And we're just going to go frame by frame, and I might stop to ask a question or two, okay?
Okay.
All right, go ahead. All right, stop. And we can see the outline of Ms. Phillips as you're turning into the westbound driveway, or the westmost driveway, correct?
That's correct.
Ms. Phillips is the one who's kneeling at the edge of the snowbank over there, correct?
That is correct.
We cannot see any defined features of Mr. Phillips in this frame, is that correct?
I do not see any.
All right, continue please, thank you. Oh. Yeah, thank you, Ms. Camp. That was at 6 hours, 40 minutes, and 30 seconds. All right, we can continue. All right, we'll stop here. We're stopped at 6 minutes, 40 seconds, or 6 hours, 40 minutes, and 31 seconds. We can see clearly that Ms. Phillips is kneeling in the snowbank next to where Mr. Phillips is found. Is that correct?
I don't know if she's kneeling in the snowbank. I think she's kneeling, yes. Her exact position, I don't know. She could be, I don't know her exact
Yeah.
position there.
Well, let me rephrase that. It looks like she's kneeling at least in the driveway to some degree, right?
Correct.
And in a kneeling position, correct?
Yes, it appears to be.
And Ms. Phillips appears to be dressed mostly in dark colors, is that correct?
They appear darker, yes. There's no lighting there.
And that appears consistent, well, strike that, we haven't got there yet. Okay, we can continue. Okay, stop. And we're stopped again within some of the frames, within 6 hours, 40 minutes, and 31 seconds. Sergeant, we can see that Ms. Phillips' knees are both clearly down, extended on that position of the driveway, correct?
Yes.
We can see her, what appears to be one of her arms, extended over her right knee as she's kneeling.
Could be.
And we can't see Mr. Phillips at all in this view of your squad car video, can we?
No.
Keep going. All right, and stop. We are stopped at 6 hours, 40 minutes, and 32 seconds. Again, the only figure we can see in this view from your squad car camera is Ms. Phillips. Is that correct?
Appears to be, yes.
We can keep going. All right. Thank you, Ms. Witzke. We're still at 6 hours, 40 minutes, and 32 seconds. The frames have brought Ms. Phillips out of the out of the picture at this point. Sergeant, do you agree that once you turn into that driveway, we can't see Mr. Phillips at all from the perspective of your squad car video?
I would agree.
You would agree? We can take the video down, thank you. You had a chance to take a look at the Dodge Ram?
The Dodge Ram?
Yes.
I did look at it, yes.
And would you agree that this is a fairly high-seated vehicle? In other words, the
Yes, it's a larger vehicle.
driver typically would be higher up than you would be in your standard Subaru sedan.
Yes.
And a person, in order to see Mr. Phillips driving by that position, would have to be able to look directly to the right and downwards in order to see him in that position driving by, correct?
I don't know that.
Well, we couldn't see him from a straightforward view, right?
Straightforward view?
A view of your camera directing straight down the driveway.
Correct. Correct. That doesn't explain where a person's eyes might be looking, though.
Well, Sergeant, let's talk about the home security system. You testified in your direct yesterday that you didn't believe that the cameras were able to capture the position of Mr. Phillips' body from the home. Is that correct?
I did not believe that they could.
Has anyone shown you a copy of camera footage that you're actually in depicting your perception?
Depicting my perception?
Well, look, I have a flash drive with things inside. On that one.
Would this be a good time for a break?
Everyone's ready, we can take a break.
For you to find the exhibit and stuff. So why don't we do this? Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a break right now, 10, 15 minutes. Please don't talk about the case, and we'll see you back in about 10, 15 minutes.